TICO. My role within the company is co-founder as well as CMO. So how technology can change the way we think of disability and the way we act towards disability is a focus of this presentation. Technology improves the visitor experience of cultural institutions such as museums and cultural sites, not only by making physical accessibility possible, but also by working on the type of experience that the disabled visitor makes. We have to consider that visually impaired and blind people cannot access cultural heritage in a proper way almost all over the world. And barriers that are not only infrastructure but also mindset so prevail, preventing them from a true social inclusion. And despite the recent progress, social inclusion is still a chimera. And several cultural heritage organizations and entities are struggling to offer innovative solutions for including vulnerable targets into their exhibition path. And we also have to consider that not all disabilities are the same. While it is straightforward that people with limited mobility are allowed by law to access almost everywhere, any place, there is still a great margin of improvement for visually impaired people, because in fact they can physically reach cultural sites, but the contents are still not accessible for them. And in this case, accessibility is to be intended more in terms of autonomy, in the sense of having the possibility of visiting a cultural site even without the presence of a specialized guide. Very few sites have such a service, and often only in determined days and hours of the day. But the blind people value the possibility of visiting a museum with a family and their friends, sharing the space and time of the visit. So, to summarize, everything that moves away from the concept of a museum of replicas for the blind is a step towards the inclusion and towards the ideal of the museum for all. So in the first part of this presentation, we will go through a series of recent technologies that demonstrate how huge the impact can be for disabled people in terms of participation in everyday activities. In the second and third part, we'll go through our technology to TICO, how it works, and we give an example. And finally, we will introduce our collaborator, Deborah. She is a visually impaired person who works with us. So these are the learning objectives and the learning outcomes of this webinar. So know the ecosystem of technologies designed for the accessibility of special audiences and discover the world of technology at the service of disability are the first 2 points we'll go through immediately. In the second moment, we'll discover TICO technology. What I would like to highlight when we review the different technological solutions at the service of disability is that TICO, unlike these technologies, is usable by all and is configured as an example of design for all. As learning outcomes, we will be aware of disability and approach it with awareness. We will know the functioning of TICO technology, and we will be able to provide technical assistance and support to blind people. So, let's start by seeing how technologies are improving lives of disabled people, going through a series of examples. Research in recent decades has offered new solutions to problems once unsurpassed, shortening the gap between the world of disability and technology. Technological solutions are very often focused on a specific problem or disability, excluding any other field of application or extension. It is also true, however, that technologies created and designed for the disabled have been universally adopted by all. Just think of the straw, the trolley, or the potato peeler. The focus of design for all is the design for universally valid systems, because what works for a disabled person certainly works for everyone. The following are examples of 3 innovative technologies aimed at the social inclusion of people with sensory disabilities, but not designed for all. So, Imme is a system that's thanks to a special plate, is able to detect any sound that occurs inside a house and alert the user directly on the bracelet, making it vibrate and illuminate and indicating in the display the sound source detected. We'll see a video showing how it works. So we saw now a solution that can make anyone with hearing problems feel more independent and safe. Next example of a technology is Be My Eyes. Be My Eyes is an app based on volunteers who read or describe in real time for blind people. Let's see again in more detail how it works.
You might wonder how blind people deal with everyday challenges. Well, normally the answer is simple. They're not that different from you. We play music. We go to school. We go to work. You get the picture. But sometimes the simplest things can be difficult, and we need a pair of eyes to connect to. That's where you come in. Through your smartphone, Be My Eyes connects to the blind with sighted people through a live video connection. Simply choose if you need help or want to help by the click of a button. You can help just by installing the Be My Eyes app, and we'll notify you when someone needs your help. And if you're in the middle of something, don't worry, someone else will step in. So, would you care to be my eyes?
And the last example of technology that we will see is Dippy Glove. Dippy Glove has been created by Nicholas, a very clever scientist. And the man who you will see in the video is his own father, who became deaf and blind in old age.
Have you ever thought about living with deaf blindness? People who are deaf and blind at the same time experience a unique condition of isolation. Touch is the only sense they can interact. Touch can express much more than we might even imagine: sensations, needs, stories, and feelings. Blind and deafblind individuals use touch-based languages to communicate with others, but only a few are able to understand them. This is why we invented Dippy Glove, an interactive device for enabling blind and deafblind people to achieve autonomous communication with others, support to do everyday tasks, interaction with the world, and independent living. Dippy Glove consists of a wearable pad worn by the blind or deafblind on the left hand. This is an input and output multi-touch interface based on the Morse alphabet, a very easy language that is already employed in the deafblind community. Dippy Glove connects via Bluetooth to smartphones, tablets, PCs, and to many Bluetooth-enabled users type on sensors that support mouse and braille. Messages are visualized and displayed to interact with other people or they can control applications. Replies and feedback are received through vibrations simulating touch cues on the hand. Powerful, portable, wearable, always connected, and extensible thanks to smartphone applications that enable controlling appliances, getting access to the internet, learning, and receiving guidance in the environment while moving autonomously. We spent years in research to provide blind and deafblind people with the best assistive technology with the best user experience ever. Studies show that Dippy Glove is twice as accurate and fast as braille displays and 12 times cheaper. Now we need you to turn the light on Dippy Glove and let the world know about how our technology can improve people's lives. To get info, donate, and share, visit www.dippyglove.com.
So we, as we said, and as we just saw, technological solutions are very often focused on a specific problem or disability and excluding any other field of application or extension. And we just saw 3 examples that address either deaf or deaf and blind people, changing dramatically their quality of life. But the focus of Design for All is a design of universally valid systems, because what works for a disabled person certainly works for everyone. And Tutico is deeply rooted in this principle, as we will see in a moment. The starting point is that visually impaired cannot access cultural heritage in a proper way almost all over the world. So the point of Tutico is that it puts together touch and hearing in such a way that both hands can explore the object at the same time, while the related audio content is being received by the person that is exploring the surface. Tutico is a smart wearable device that combines touch and hearing to help the visually impaired to visualize objects they couldn't experience otherwise. We enable blind people to perceive the world, and it's simple. You touch the object while you hear the audio track, listening to a voice description. So here, this is the tactile surface. It can be the original work of art, as in this case, when it's possible, or even a replica. So this surface has NFC tags embedded or simply applied on the top. And during the tactile exploration, the NFC tags are triggered by the ring. This is the ring. The ring detects and reads the NFC tags and sends a command in Wi-Fi mode to the smart device. The smart device, be it a smartphone, an iPad, or an audio guide, receives the command from the ring and plays an audio track describing the exact point that is being touched in that moment. We will see a short video explaining how it works.
Uno, la torre central que mira la ciudad fue diseñada por Filarete. 2. El foso que rodea el castillo es el mismo foso que originalmente rodeaba las murallas de la ciudad medieval.
1. Iniziato nel 1386, il Duomo è il risultato di 5 secoli di evoluzione architettonica. 2. Si possono contare 52 pilastri, alti 24 metri e del diametro di 3 metri e mezzo.
1. This is the main entrance to the church. In Renaissance buildings, doors usually have square lintels and they are surmounted by a triangular pediment. 2. You are touching rusticated masonry. Rusticated masonry is squared off and left with a rougher surface.
'Now we will see examples of how Tutico technology has been applied. We will see 3 examples. In the first case, Tutico is applied on the original piece of art. On the second case, Tutico is applied on tactile maps, and on the third case, Tutico is applied on replicas. Concerning the work on the originals, Tutico uses small sensors that can be applied directly on the originals or on the supports. In this way, it is possible to touch directly the original works of art and get an audio feedback of what is touched. This is the case of the Arapacis in Rome. This project, Art for the Blind, was held in Arapacis in Rome in 2017. Art for the Blind is a unique experimental project where visually impaired visitors can access the extraordinary heritage of the museum and really get in touch with the mythical past of the city of Rome. Thanks to Tutico, the busts of the royal family each tell their story in first person, evoked by tactile exploration through the ring, and the model of the altar unveils its narratives figurative after figure, each tactile explorer proceeding at their own pace. And here we'll see exactly the case of the figures of the statues. Here we see the visitors meeting the protagonists of the imperial family, and each member of the family tells his or her story in first person in a very engaging way. And as you can easily understand, it is a way of approaching the work of art suitable for everyone, especially children and those who deal with the idea of culture with awe. Second example is Tutico applied on tactile maps. So Tutico can convert existing tactile maps into speaking models. This obviously is cheaper. It is possible to produce schematic reproductions of works of art containing tactile content combined with audio information. This was the case of the viii project that was itinerant, first in Siena, then in Cork, and then in Zagreb. viii that is Voyage Inside a Blind Experience, has the aim of creating a model for a temporary art exhibition that can be reproduced and that will have an equal interest both for seeing and for visually impaired individuals. So again, the design for all principle. The artistic project was born from a collaboration between Tutico and Atlante Servizi and the Joseph and Annie Albers Foundation. And Tutico technology makes the abstract works of Joseph and Annie Albers explorable using an experimental method that can be applied to various needs. So in this case, some flat drawings, some paintings have been made tactile by translating them into three-dimensional models. This is the picture in the middle. Again, it is evident how the whole package can be experienced by all kinds of publics. The third example of Tutico applications is its use on reproductions. So here, with the use of 3D scanning and 3D printing, it is possible to reproduce faithfully, with no contact, any work of art. The reproduction, in this case is a scale 1:1, is equipped with sensors that are able to activate the audio information required for the multisensory experience. This was the case applied to some of the works of art of the Museum of Massa Marittima. So this was the Massa Marittima Archaeological Museum, who selected two of the most important pieces of its collection. The stele was the first picture in the previous, oh, no, it's the one you're seeing right now, and Eracle Callinico. This is Eracle. So Tutico provided the scanning and the 3D printing of the two relics. And now the stele and the Eracle are part of a multisensorial exhibit, accessible to all again, and that will grow in the next years with new acquisitions. So when the piece of art is either too fragile or too large, or for any other reason not adequate for being touched, the high fidelity replica is a solution. The object can be enlarged, reduced, and details can be highlighted in different ways. And the possibility of touching manufacts that are normally under glass gives a different point of view on what art is and to our relationship with it. She's Deborah Tramentozzi, our collaborator. She's a very inspiring blind girl who loves art. And she was called to participate in a TED Talk, after which there was a standing ovation for her. So this is the video of her speech, but it's unfortunately for the moment is only in Italian. So I'll leave it for those who understand Italian to listen to it and watch it. It's really worth. And to end this webinar, I would like to give some guidelines for welcoming visually impaired in cultural sites. First thing is that most blind and visually impaired people move with their companions, family, friends. In the event that the blind or visually impaired visitor enters independently, it is advisable to follow a few simple steps. So first, observe the visitor and understand if he is a person inclined to be helped or to be autonomous. Offer your support at the ticket office and in the hall, always with friendliness and without weighing your presence. Avoid gestural and verbal attitudes that may underline disability. Inside the museum, there may be obstacles that could be dangerous for users, so take special care to avoid dangerous situations for visitors. Last, not all visually impaired move with a stick. Deborah, for example, does not, nor with a guide dog or with black sunglasses. Many visually impaired people are autonomous and self-sufficient. Learning to recognize them is essential to avoid running into unnecessary barriers.
Τώρα μίλησα με την Κατσελάκη με ήθελε. Το ίδιο το Κατσελάκη λέει, το ξέρει γιατί τους το έχουν πει όλοι και οι γραφείς σας και